One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. Matt Roberts with D1 Ticker and One Question. I'm joined today by the founder of Coach to Cure, MD Brad Todd. Coach to Cure, you would have seen on college coaching, football coaches, jackets, jackets and shirts 3 weeks ago. Big patch that is pretty prevalent for that entire weekend, Brad. And we don't see this in college football, maybe like we do in other sports. College basketball comes to mind where there's certainly a big push around a couple of different causes. But Coach to Cure, MD, is really the cause for college football coaches around the nation. So Brad does a bunch of work in D.C. as a political strategist in the advertising world, but this is a calling for you. So take me back kind of to the founding story of Coach to Cure MD.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on today, Matt. My nephew was diagnosed with Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy back in 2005, and it's a terrible, awful disorder. It's a progressive muscle disease, and it robs these boys of their ability to walk before they're teenagers, and it takes their life in their 20s. There's no cure for it. And so my little nephew was diagnosed when he was 3. And, the first year it happened, my wife and I wrote the biggest check we could afford to a charity that was doing research for a cure. And the next year we wrote the biggest check we could afford to a charity that was looking for a cure. And it finally occurred to me, I was like, I'll never be able to write enough checks. We have to come up with some other way to leverage the other things we do in our lives. And so we have tried to do that in a variety of ways. And one way was, I knew a couple college football coaches, and one day I was out running, and the idea came to me that the college football coaches didn't have a sideline charity like the basketball coaches have a game day charity. And so we took the idea to the American Football Coaches Association with the help of Philip Fulmer and Tommy Tuberville, and that soon branched out to their friends, including Ty Willingham and Mac Brown and Mike Riley, and it just kind of mushroomed from there. And Grant Taff, who was the legendary coach at Baylor, just had a passion for these boys, and we caught a break.
So you mentioned to me previously of the story when you went to, I think you said it was Phoenix, to present in front of the AFCA board, which I think is an amazing story and certainly includes Mac Brown and his family. So recount that one for our audience.
Sure. Well, I went to we were the last item on the agenda of an AFCA board meeting to consider this, and Coach Taff and I had been trying to make the program workable for a while to make this presentation, and it was the end of a long day of meetings. And Coach Taff, I was sitting in the lobby, and Coach Taff's assistant called me and said, "Hey, why don't you come in and make a presentation?" And I walked into the room. It was probably 10 o'clock at night. These guys were tired as could be, and they had talked through. These coaches don't have a lot of free time for this. They all devote their time to the association, as their own their own charitable cause, if you will. And they were probably exhausted from debating rules changes and standards and all that sort of stuff. If they could be all day, and I walked into a room full of tired faces, and all of a sudden, a few guys I could see sort of perk up, and Rich Rodriguez perked his head up and was just a real sunny personality like anybody who's seen him on the sidelines is, and Mike Bellotti, who had coached at Oregon. I was about halfway through my presentation, and he stuck his hand in the air and said, "Guys, I've met these kids. I've met their families. They're the bravest people I know in my life. We need to do whatever he's about to ask us to do." That was kind of a godsend. And Coach Brown asked me, "So how long is it going to take to get this program off the ground?" And I decided to give him a football answer. And I said, "Well, how long does it take to develop a quarterback, Coach?" And he said, 3 years. And I said, "That's what I want, 3 years." And so Coach Brown subsequently met a kid with Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy and his wife, Sally, and they are just true warriors for this cause. They believe it with all their hearts, and we really are grateful to him.
On an annual basis, educate me on the back-end coordination that takes place with coaches throughout the nation in lead up to the weekend when we have this huge public spotlight on Coach to Cure MD. I mean, with the patches and
Sure.
the marketing message. I mean, that's no small feat.
Absolutely. We start in May, and we start reminding coaches. It is a high turnover business, so there are a lot of new head coaches every year, and this is a decision each head coach makes to participate in Coach to Cure MD for himself. It is a cause of the American Football Coaches Association, but it's a voluntary association, and these are voluntary decisions. And so we asked the coaches in May to sign up, and many of them do. And then when they come, college football comes to a grinding halt, in the middle of June once camps are over, and the coaches take about 6 weeks off, and then they come back at the end of July, and then they're going hard into fall practice and 20-hour days, 7 days a week kind of thing. So we start in May before they leave and remind them about it, and especially the new guys. And most coaches, we have 10,000 coaches participate nationwide, and that's at all levels of college football, NAIA, Division III, Division II, Division I, you name it. Even some high schools do it. And so when they come back in the summer, we start reminding them, the guys that have signed up to participate, we say, hey, would you like to have a Duchenne kid on the field? And this year we had over 100 colleges have a boy who's battling Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy come out as their honorary captain, toss the coin. Some of them have them at practice during the week to adopt it. And a lot of fans may have seen Urban Meyer and his relationship with a young man named Jacob Jarvis in Ohio. And Coach Meyer and Jacob Jarvis have become huge buddies. And you can see Jacob on the sidelines at a lot of Ohio State games or in the locker room after the game. And it's just it's really been a neat thing for a lot of coaches to involve some of these families in their programs, and it helps fans understand the face of the cause. And it's if you're battling Duchenne muscular dystrophy, every day is worse than yesterday was. It is a brutal, ruthless disorder, and I think a lot of coaches tell us they have found it instructive as they teach these young men on their football teams about overcoming adversity in their own life. And Matt, that's college football coaches. Most people who get in this game, they quickly realize that the chances of them becoming Nick Saban making $5 million a year are not that great. And so why do you stay in this job that's 20 hours a week? And the answer is they just really care about developing young men. And I think that's why Coach to Cure MD with Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy being a boy's disease is really taken off.
This story, I think, is really important, Brad, right now, given what we've seen over the last couple of weeks throughout the industry and developments at the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm interested to know, since you guys partnered with the AFCA in 2008, what cures or developments in treatment for the disease have been. Certainly not a direct byproduct of the program, but what progress have we made in the last decade?
Well, let me tell you, the pace of research is incredibly fast right now, and by way of reference, this disorder has been around since humans have been walking upright. Again, our bodies of the boys who have this disease can't make this muscle protein called dystrophin, and that holds their muscle fibers together, to be simplest explanation. But we only discovered how the disease worked in 1986. So even though it's been around for eons, it's been a fairly recent development to even understand it. And then in 2008, when we started Coach to Cure MD, there had only been one clinical trial of a potential treatment in the United States, only one. Today, 10 years later, there are over 100 clinical trials underway right now. And so our pace is increasing rapidly. Last year, the Food and Drug Administration approved its first treatment for Duchenne muscular dystrophy ever. It affects about 5% of the boys, and hopefully it'll add a few more years to their walking. It's not a cure by any means, but the increased awareness of people around the country to know a little bit more about this disorder has impacted sort of the enthusiasm of policymakers, and it's also, I think, as becoming a little bit more high profile of a cause, it's helping us out as sort of investor enthusiasm as well, and so. We're excited about the progress, the pace of progress. My nephew's 15 right now. We certainly hope we can find a cure in time for him and boys of his generation. The clock's pretty loud in all of our ears, and we're very mindful that 10 more years. We've had 10 years since we started Coach to Cure MD, and 10 more years is probably more than we want to wait. So.
Brad, can you go into detail a little further on, you said the public spotlight that you're able to put on the disease and,
Sure.
and potential cures helps with investor relations. Can you detail that a little more?
Sure. Well, one of the problems when you have a disease like this we're classified as a rare disease, even though it's the most common genetic lethal disorder affecting young men. We still are kind of a rare disease. It's 1 in 3,500 boys are born with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. It is important for diseases like us to stay in the public spotlight. The Food and Drug Administration has a lot of latitude as to which courses of which diseases it puts emphasis on, and the people who are making decisions at biotech companies and pharmaceutical companies, they follow that pretty closely. And so one of our focal points as people who are involved in this disorder is keep this disease as high profile as we can, so policymakers and investors and people who are making decisions in C-suites of biotech companies know what we are. We want, when that proposal comes across their desk from one of their scientists of, here, we'd like to have funding for this drug for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, we want them to go, oh, I know what that is. I watch college football. So it is as a rare disease, it is really important for the world to understand your cause. We can't do this by ourselves. All of us who have family members fighting Duchenne, there simply aren't enough of us to beat this disease. But we can beat it with the help of a whole lot of other people who, I like to say, get involved the hard way. It was easy for me to get involved. I had no choice. My nephew has Duchenne. I have to do everything I can to try to help save his life. But everybody else gets a lot of other causes they can get involved with. So you have to pick this one over other things. And so we want every college football fan to pick Duchenne muscular dystrophy to try to help us fight it.
And how can athletic administrators across the nation help push this message as well?
Well, it's I think help us highlight this commitment of coaches. College athletics have a lot of challenges in the PR world, as you talk about, and I think we often end up defining ourselves by our successes and failures on and off the field. And I think reminding fans that the development of young men and the commitment to young men that college football coaches have is a huge advantage. This Coach to Cure MD program is a great way to sort of shine a spotlight on it. And college administrators can do a lot of things. First off, helping fans in their stadium understand what Coach to Cure MD is on our big weekend. D1 Ticker, I know, is a Learfield property. Learfield has been fantastic to us over the years with all its on-campus properties of PA announcements in the stadium, talking about it on your radio network. You could also help us in your TV, and college administrators can help us in their TV broadcast. The Coach to Cure MD logo would look great on a field on the fourth Saturday in September next year, if anybody's interested. I think the whole goal is for on that day to help everybody understand that college football coaches have big hearts and they're dedicated to the development of young men. And one other neat thing about Coach to Cure MD is the funds we raise are given out in peer-reviewed grants by an organization called Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy. We're operated by Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy, which is a fantastic national charity devoted only to the cure of this disorder. And many of those grants end up going to researchers who are on college football campuses at places like Ohio State and UCLA and Iowa and Florida and Missouri. All those places are schools where muscle researchers are on the cutting edge of this disorder. And I think it's really pretty neat to sort of make that connection between program the college football coaches are integrally involved with sort of the academic side of what's going on at the university. We don't often see that direct linkage, but Coach to Cure MD is definitely a place where what the coaches do on the field positively impacts what many academic researchers do.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.